Hi, it's Nick from the Run Testers, and this is a review of the Salomon Phantasm CF. Right, let's dive in with some of the key stats of the shoe, starting with the price. This is a £200 shoe in the UK. It's $225 in the US and €200 in Euro places. That's right up there with very expensive super shoes. Salomon has got high hopes for the Phantasm CF. It's obviously got a much bigger stack than the original Phantasm, which was almost basically a racing flat. This has got a 34mm stack at the heel and 25mm at the forefoot for a 9mm drop, and it's a fair bit heavier as a result of all that extra foam. It's 246 grams in my UK size 9, which puts it heavier than a lot of the super shoes out there. Most of them in my size tend to come in around 230 grams, and then some of the lighter ones will be around 200 grams. So the foam's got to do a little bit more to make up that weight. And we should say that it is coming in May 2022, according to the Salomon website. There's no other details available on that front. On the upper, you've got Salomon's matrix material, which is quite a stiff and firm feeling mesh, but it is comfortable. It wraps the foot well. It does get a very secure lockdown fit. You've got some kind of extra reinforcement around the heels, like kind of rubber around here, and then a good amount of padding. So you do get a good solid lockdown fit around the heel, I found. And then you've got a really bad tongue, which just doesn't really fit well. You have to rearrange it every single time on the run. I'm not someone who gets bothered by tongues and weird tongues generally, but if you are, this tongue is going to annoy you. But once you're running, hopefully you can forget about it. Then you've got a big midsole, which is Salomon's Energy Surge foam. Now this is, and I have to read this, it's an EVA olefin copolymer blend. So basically it's a bit of EVA and another material called olefin. It's a good material. You've seen it on some of Salomon's trail shoes before, like the Pulsar and the Ultra Glide. It's got a bit of bounce, it's quite soft, but it's maybe not really hitting the kind of standout feel of things like Nike Zoom X. Underneath the first layer of that foam, you've got the Energy Blade composite fiber plate. Now this is still stiff, and you can see can't really bend the shoe too much, but it's not quite as stiff as a full carbon plate, so you're getting a little bit more kind of flexibility there and a slightly softer feel underfoot. But yeah, it's still pretty much doing a similar job to what a carbon plate does in kind of helping you transition and snap off your forefoot. That transition is also aided by the very aggressive rocker design of the shoe, which has Salomon's reverse camber design. Now that was on the Phantasm, the original one, the kind of low stack racer, but obviously with the higher stack it becomes far more exaggerated and really comes into play on the run. Underneath the Energy Blade you've got another kind of thinner layer of the Energy Surge foam, so that looks like a huge outsole, but it's actually just soft foam. It actually even feels slightly softer to the touch than the Energy Surge foam above the plate, but that could just be because it's a thinner layer. And then on the outsole, we've got a really good forefoot coverage of Salomon's Contagrip material, which is fantastic, really grips well in the wet. And then kind of two thinner strips on the back with quite a lot of exposed foam there, but it seems like reasonably hardy stuff. I think durability is probably going to be something that's a strong point for the shoe rather than a huge concern. It's got a long and slightly narrow fit. I actually did try on an 8.5 as well as my usual 9 when I was looking at the shoes at a Salomon event, and actually the 8.5 fit me perfectly well. This is the 9 and I'm happy true to size, but if you're someone like me who's got a narrow foot and is often maybe slightly in between 2 sizes, you could probably go for the half size lower. But in general, true to size works really well in the shoe. So I had a bit of a whirlwind romance with the Phantasm CF, which I got on a Thursday night at the Salomon's kind of 24-hour relay event in North London. And I decided to take it away that weekend and run the Bilbao Marathon in it. This wasn't like a big goal race for me. It was a fun trip away with some other run testers, and I thought it'd be a great test for the shoe, to put it straight through a full marathon. So before the kind of race, I did do a couple of shortish runs in it just to make sure it wasn't going to rub me to death straight away. But I did a kind of an easy shakeout run, I did a progression run, going down to around kind of 3:20 a k pace, and yeah, it felt fine. It felt comfy. I liked the feel of it, so I was happy to go into the marathon in it. Now, the marathon was, I don't know if people have seen the marathon race video, they know that it was a very eventful affair. Basically the worst organised marathon I've ever come across. No toilets, no kilometre markers, delayed start. And the fun fact that, so after running what I thought was the race route, getting my medal, finishing up, I found out later I was disqualified for apparently missing a timing mat. Talk a bit more about that afterwards, but anyway, I'm going to cut now to my instant reaction after the marathon. I didn't know I was disqualified for just some kind of instant thoughts on the shoe straight after finishing what I thought was, not a very well organised, but still a reasonably successful marathon. Really, really enjoyable marathon. Got a medal there. Ran something like a 2:36 high, maybe a 2:37 in the end. Nice and relaxed for 30k, then kicked up. Crowds started to come in around then as well. Put the music on, absolutely blasted 30 to 35k, then kind of stepped back slightly for the rest of it. Yeah, just really enjoyed the marathon. I really enjoyed the shoes. There you go, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to say, really like the Phantasm CF today. It's exactly perfect for a marathon. They're really comfortable for the most part. I'd say actually they really reminded me of the Saucony Endorphin Speeds in the way they kind of rolled through, but maybe slightly more stable and firmer than Speeds, and in a quite good way, I'd say. Like whole way I felt in control. My stride was nice, relaxed. Obviously I wasn't gunning it and like breaking down, but at the same time I was pushing very hard in the last bit, and it really felt like it was a nice shoe to have on for this. Rolled through. Really couldn't say too much, couldn't really have any negatives about it. I'd say, it is probably a little bit heavy and it might not have the absolute top end speed if you're going from marathon all the way from the gun, but I ran the last bit, quite speedily, really quite happily in it. I think it's an efficient shoe, and it's certainly a shoe that I'd love to do loads and loads of running in for training as well. So yeah, very impressed with the Phantasm CF. So there we go, that was my instant thoughts. Later found out, like I say, I was disqualified. I've disputed that because I don't think I missed any timing mats. I've sent them my Strava route, which followed the route. I'm presuming that I'm on the timing mats either side of the one I apparently missed. But it's like I say, it wasn't a very well organised race, and they've more or less ignored me for a couple of weeks now. So even though my decision is apparently still with some judges somewhere, I'm not hopeful of getting any kind of information on whether I'm actually disqualified or not, ever. So let's just go with I am disqualified, but it was still a very good test of the shoe, because I did run 42.5k on Strava at a good pace, progressing through the gears, and I'll still kind of call it a marathon test, even if I haven't technically got a medal that I can hang up to show that it's not gone up there with the rest of my marathon medals, put it that way. So yeah, I did have a good, long, hard run in the Phantasm CF, and you can tell from that video, I really did enjoy it. It was really comfortable, a nice amount of propulsion, kind of moving through the gears to finish quite fast. And even though, I wasn't really gunning it, I wasn't all out well trained, it's, still a time I'm very pleased with, and it would be my either fourth or fifth fastest marathon of the kind of the 9 I've done, 8 I've done, not counting that one. Anyway, I did take it for another one after that, because I basically want to see how it would fare at kind of faster than marathon pace, quicker race paces. So I took it down to the track for two sets of 10 times 400, where I was running kind of 80-second pace and 75-second pace alternating for the reps with kind of a 100-meter jog recovery. Did the first set in the Mizuno Wave Rebellion, which is another plated shoe that's geared more towards training and has a much firmer feel than the Phantasm. I did the second set in the Phantasm, and it is a lovely shoe to pull on, especially after a firm shoe like the Mizuno, because it's so soft, it's so comfortable, it's very quiet as well, and it really is much smoother than a lot of kind of more snappy transition shoes. But I will say it wasn't excellent. It wasn't excellent on those kind of reps, so 75s around 5k pace, and then 80 seconds around kind of half marathon pace when I'm all out, or 10k pace when I'm not really on it. And yeah, I did have to kind of work a bit harder in the shoe to kind of make the pace on those reps. It doesn't feel like a fantastic short distance explosive racing shoe. It very much feels like something that you get onto a nice roll with and just kind of cruise through longer races in, like the marathon. It's certainly, and a great shoe, I think, for lots of kind of training, like tempo runs and long progression runs, things like that. It's got a lot of, use case scenarios for that, as well as long races, but maybe on that kind of more explosive speed where, you can still obviously do it in the shoe. It is still a fast shoe, but yeah, actually something like the Mizuno, which is heavier, but much kind of a snappier feel, a firmer feel, works very well for that short stuff, compared to this kind of more smooth shoe, which really is built for long stuff, in my opinion. So I really like the Salomon Phantasm CF. I think it's an excellent shoe, but I really don't like its price. I think it's a shoe that would work fantastically well if pitched as something that's going to really take on the best kind of all-rounder trainer racers out there. Things like the Endorphin Speed, but that's £155, and this is £200. It's priced like it's going to take on the top tier carbon shoes. It's coming in a little bit cheaper. Things like the Vaporfly and the New Balance RC Elite 2 and the Metaspeed Sky, but it's so close in price that if you're spending £200 on the shoe, I think it's worth spending the extra to get one of those. I do believe that they're slightly punchier and more effective, efficient racers, kind of especially at shorter distances. But even in the marathon, if the chips were down, I'd be picking up a Vaporfly, Alphafly, Metaspeed Sky over this, even though I did run a very enjoyable marathon in it, and I think it's a great marathon racing shoe, and it kind of can hang with those shoes. It's just, I think they're slightly better. And then when it comes to shorter distance events, I certainly think they would have the edge over the Phantasm. However, I think this has got the edge. I think it's going to be a durable shoe, and it's a really comfortable shoe, and a shoe that I think is great for racking up lots of training as well as racing. And that would make it a lot more attractive as an option, I think, for lots of people if it was just a little bit cheaper. It's certainly outstanding on longer efforts with that really nice, smooth ride that just stays comfortable the whole way through. And when you are progressing the pace on runs, it just goes with you really nicely. But if you are going out at that kind of short, sharp, all out fast pace, it doesn't feel so well suited to that. Actually, the original Phantasm would probably be a better bet for that, as that kind of firmer racing flat with a little bit of a kind of a camber, but not so much kind of size and weight and kind of, heft, I guess. So yeah, we are talking about the original Phantasm. There's a very clear difference between them. That shoe, I think, was also a shoe I really liked, but was a little bit hamstrung by a high price again, especially for something that was really, a racing flat with just a little bit of a more cush and a slight rocker to it. This is more of a real super shoe, certainly, and it's got a lot of fantastic elements to it. And like I said, it's a shoe I'll probably be grabbing myself regularly to just use because it's just such a nice feeling to run in the shoe. But, really, it comes down to the fact that it's a £200 shoe going up against the very best carbon shoes out there, and I think it's slightly off that kind of top tier. It probably falls more in the kind of second tier for me. I think it's as good as something like the Saucony Endorphin Pro, but even like the Adizero Adios 2 comes in cheaper than this, and I think, again, I'd probably lean towards that if I was going for an all-out marathon or half marathon. And then the other big, shoe that's always going to be around to compare it to is the Endorphin Speed 2, which is £155. I think they're actually comparable in lots of ways. I think the ride is quite similar. I really like both of those shoes. I would say maybe this has got a little bit more stability. So there is maybe a little case there. Someone who's listened to all this fantastic praise for the Endorphin Speed across, many reviewers, including myself and the rest of the run testers, but actually did find it a little bit soft or unstable, didn't really like it. This is another option. It has got a similar feel for me, but maybe it might be a little bit more stable, might work a bit better for you, whilst delivering all those great things that you get from the Speed, which is, a lot of pace, a fantastic smooth ride, but also versatility in that you can use it for lots of training as well, because it is pretty comfortable and not as kind of harsh or kind of bizarre as many super shoes are, to the point that you don't really want to pull them on every single day. Really, really good shoe, great marathon shoe. Loved running a marathon even if I was disqualified. A tough sell if you've already got something like the Vaporfly or are looking at shoes now and can find the Vaporfly for less in a sale, or even I would probably still spend the extra £25 and get it, or something like the Metaspeed Sky. But yeah, don't discount it as a great option, especially as it is probably one of the harder wearing super shoes. So if you're not picking up a carbon plate shoe to top off a rotation, you're actually looking for a shoe to do lots of training in whilst also having that kind of super shoe feel. This is one of the top contenders out there, along with something like the Endorphin Speed, which again is a little bit cheaper. That's it, guys. That's our review of the Phantasm CF. Let us know what you think in the comments below, and maybe tell us your worst marathon experience if it's anything like what happened in Bilbao. Please like, subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.